December 1st. We are ready to start a new month, and we're ready to keep going on through Daniel here. Last week I thought I ended at the cloud that the Son of Man was sitting on, but Frank, you don't remember dealing with some of the other things just before that, so we'll cover that. But this morning, Frank's reading through the book of Daniel for one part of our biblical reading, and he was in chapter 2. And I saw something that I need to correct, because I said the toes of the statue, which were made of iron and clay.
This is a vision of Nebuchadnezzar.
Right, and the iron comes out of Rome.
Mm-hmm.
And the toes that had the clay in it, the clay part, I said was man.
Mm-hmm.
Was man potentially being the man for the man who'd rule the world.
Mm.
That the toes and the feet, it says, get swept away. So it is not God's people, as I had thought it might be among the iron.
Mm.
Rather, it's the thinking of people who want a one-world system and become the man that rules the earth. But those thoughts are, and it says that they're mingled with the iron through procreation. So it may be that they don't really like this Rome aspect, the religious part that Rome brings into to play. Because, you know, the nation of Italy and Rome
Mm-hmm.
was not primarily religious.
No.
At the beginning.
Yeah.
They had gods, but that wasn't what was motivating or ruling them.
No.
But it turned into that when they adopted Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
And then they became a religious rulership that went out and conquered through this religion. So that's how it became clay and iron. You had the part that was just purely government, and then you had the part that was trying to do it through religion. Well, you get down to, and I think you see it maybe more in America. Probably you would have seen it in Russia. That they want to get rid of the religious part.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so that gets rid of the clay. The clay can't hold together, and then you've got it's holding together through marriages. People in the religious community are married with people that don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
There's a mixture between believing people and unbelieving people that are trying to hold this thing together.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we might be seeing some of that break apart where people that believe that they are part of God's kingdom, and yet they're married or have relatives that they're more atheistic. And so now the politics is making a break between those people, right, in their families and marriages and so forth, because they can't agree on what they believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's more what it meant for the feet and the iron and clay. I think that because that's definitely this day and age that we're living in.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now back to chapter 7. We're in chapter 7. And we saw in this vision that Daniel is having, my Bible went out of the place it was in. Here it is. We had talked about this small horn that sprouted among 10 horns. We don't know for sure what the 10 horns represent. They're certainly powers.
Yeah.
Usually the horn is the power of a nation. The small horn is the small amount of power that the nations have given to the UN.
Mm-hmm.
And this horn thinks that he can make the humanity become one and rule the world, because it says he has human eyes and a mouth speaking.
What verse are you in now?
That was in verse 9, or maybe the end of 8. But he was speaking boastful things, and I've noticed that with people that want to be part of this one world government, they're getting very boastful and very arrogant about, with their power, they don't feel like anybody can put them down. So they can speak like that. So then he saw thrones that were set out, and the Ancient of Days sat. Well, the Ancient of Days, of course, is God. And it describes him with the snowy white hair and so forth. But the interesting thing is about, excuse me, my nose is itching this morning. His throne was sparks of fire in wheels flaming fire, and a river of fire was streaming forth from before him. Now I have some verses that I looked up, and one was about the clouds, and we'll get to that, and the other was about the day of the Lord comes with fire.
Mm.
And I have Micah 3:19, Micah 1:2-4, Obadiah verse 18 is a flame, Joel 2, Ezekiel 39:6, 38:21, 12-13 I think I have there. Isaiah 45:25, Isaiah 46:13 are about the glory of Israel. And anyway, when you read these verses about the day of the Lord, and it always has fire and clouds associated with it.
Interesting.
And it says a fire goes before him in one of them. So here we see that happening in the dream. And these thrones are set up. These thrones are powers that God has given to some of his saints, I think, but we won't get into that too much, I don't think. But they're part of the court that was sitting, and the books were open. Now, the books, I explained, was each person has a neshama, and it has recorded everything in our life. You've probably heard people speak of, in a very dire situation, their whole life goes before them. That's the neshama revealing what your life is. And so it's that's the book that is open.
So that memory is in everybody then, right?
Everybody has that memory. Even if they're not acknowledging it or don't know it, it's there.
Everything they've done is recorded in the neshama.
And I said, the only way you can get the bad things that are recorded about you out is for you to recognize them and turn away from whatever. For instance, if I sassed my mother when I was a child, that's recorded there. If I say to myself, that was not the attitude I should have had, and I ask God, what should I have done in that situation? He'll show it to me.
Okay.
Then I can ask him to forgive me, or I accept his forgiveness because I don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
That wipes that incident out of my life.
That's good.
It's good if we bother to go back and deal with it. Because then when this court was sitting and the books are open,
I guess
we have less.
I guess
that
God will help us to see what things in our neshama need to be removed, because if we remove it, will be a healthier person.
That's
a better
right.
person.
We won't react negatively in situations that we have in the past. So these books are open. Then during that time, he says, the sound of the boastful, during the time of the boastful words that the horn was speaking, I kept watching as the beast was slain and its body destroyed and given over to the burning fire. There's this burning fire there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's given over. Now, this is a different picture than the statue. The statue, there was a huge mountain, and out of the mountain came a carved stone that hit the feet of the statue, which turned it into dust. And then the dust particles were blown away with the wind. So there's two ways that he's describing how he gets rid of this last kingdom on the earth. And he's using physical things, picture ideas, to explain a phenomena that's difficult to explain how it happens. So we got two pictures representing the same thing. The fire and the wind blowing away.
Okay, so the fire is part of the cleansing or the judgment?
Yes. There's a verse, and I don't know which one of these that I had listed here, that says I think it's at the end of Isaiah, says that he will blow away the wicked. So that's just one way of saying that they're not going to exist anymore.
Well, in verse 9 it says, talk about Hashem or God, his throne was of fiery flames.
Yeah, that's what I said. Okay. Fire goes before him.
Yeah, and it says a stream of fire was flowing forth from before him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all. It sounds like a real somebody trying to destroy something, but in a way it's trying to cleanse.
So when the books are open, if there's a book that has no good in it, it probably gets swept into the fire.
Yeah. Does that mean the person's life is swept into the fire then?
I'm not going to say. I don't. It says the beast was slain and its body destroyed. The whole thing is destroyed. In other words, all the ideas, all the things they were pushing, all the things that they wanted to do on God's earth have come to nothing.
Yeah. Cool.
And the rest of the beasts were stripped of their dominion, and an extension of life was given them until a time and a season. The rest of the beasts, that's the Babylon was ahead, and then you had the Medes and the Persians, and you had Greece. Those three. They're given a little season. So I'm thinking that those dominions really aren't they aren't three powers in the world today. But the ideas and thinking and culture that came out of that there's still traces of them. And so that's probably what it's speaking about here. They were stripped of their dominion. That has been a progress. So they are stripped of their dominion. That means there's not a kingdom of Babylon on the earth. No. Okay. There is not a kingdom of Greece. Okay. They don't have the power, but their ideas and some of the things that motivated the people in those dominions are still with us today.
We still have the country of Greece. We still have Iraq.
Yeah. Now, I had a thought about Iraq. People say, well, it has never come to what it says in the Bible about destroying Babylon, and it would be a place where birds and... Well, they are trying to uncover the old city of Nebuchadnezzar.
Oh, yeah.
And where the gardens were, etc. That place is nothing but a desert and
Wow.
There's nothing out there.
Yeah, isn't that something?
And so I think that was fulfilled. I never thought about that before. The New Babylon.
So the rest of Iraq is really not that one
that was judged. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I was seeing. It says a time and a season, so that's going to come together and be destroyed along with.
Are you starting verse 13 now?
Now I'm starting verse 13.
Okay.
And this is where we left off last week. I was seeing visions of the night, and behold, along with the clouds in the heavens, one like a human being was coming and reaching the Ancient of Days and was presented before him. To me, I see two things happening here, and we'll go over it. Clouds of heaven are the saints from above that have gone before us. The Son of, well, this says one like a human being. That's a translation of Son of Man, because we have to remember Son of Man means immortal.
Yeah.
Ezekiel was called Son of Man. You, O Son of Man. I heard Tovia Singer explaining this, that Ezekiel saw these grandiose visions of God on chariots and flaming fire and all this stuff. His spirit was in such a state that he could comprehend or see these visions of some reality in the spiritual realm. So God called him Son of Man to remind him, you're just a mortal. These kinds of things are not given to mortals ordinarily, but you have to remember you're still mortal. So he called him Son of Man. Adam was called Son of God, but Seth was called Son of Adam, Son of Man. So all of us on earth are Son of Man. We were born from a man and a woman. We were born in mankind, from mankind. So this is what he sees. The clouds of heaven, and one like it was coming. The two were going to come together. Okay? And reaching the Ancient Days, and was presented before him. So some entity that's clouds, and the group on earth that are Son of Man. What made a man? We got the example of it in this book. When Nebuchadnezzar stood up after being a beast, he was a man, because he acknowledged the God of heaven, and that there was no other God that was powerful like him, and that all the people on earth should honor the God of the Hebrews. Okay, so that's what makes a man, is to acknowledge God and to walk in his ways. So that the earth...
When he came up from the Ancient of Days, that's just referring to somebody in the past, or just...
It's this one like a human being. Okay, the human being, there is a specific one person that'll be ahead of that group. Okay?
Okay, what of Ancient Days, what does that mean?
That's God.
Oh, okay.
Well, we saw it up here. That's one that had the throne and the flaming fire. It's called the Ancient of Days.
Okay. And then brought him before him. Who's him before who?
Him is God. The human being was coming and reached the Ancient of Days.
That's a reference to God, who is the Ancient of Days. Okay, I see.
And was presented before him. The human being was presented before him. So apparently,
before God.
Maybe some of the guys that were sitting on thrones who were in the court, maybe they were the ones that presented him. I'll get into we'll go on down and we'll get the interpretation of this.
Okay.
The human being is in being compared to the beasts. The other kingdoms were like animals. They had they didn't act like people with the neshama, even though they have one. But the Son of Man, or the mortal being that's here.
Neshama? Animals have a neshama?
No, animals don't.
Yeah.
So if you ignore your neshama, you start acting like an animal.
Oh, yeah, right.
And that's where these kingdoms became like beasts.
Okay.
Because they didn't acknowledge God, they didn't follow his ways. But the Son of Man, the mortal that's called man, has done that because you can't be a man without acknowledging God and following his directions.
Even though we know a person's a man, but he's not really a man in terms of what God wants.
Right, exactly. So he's presented before God and he was given dominion, honor, kingship. That's when he becomes a king, the one person in the group. And all the nations and people and speakers of all languages will serve him. His dominion is everlasting, a dominion that will not be removed, and his kingdom will not be destroyed. All right, this has got a lot in it to unpack.
Boy, I tell
you. This is like the stone that came out of the mountain. The mountain is God's kingdom. A mountain is a government.
Right.
God is bestowing this government on to the mortal, the human mortal. But they're combined with the cloud. So let's deal with the cloud, Frank.
Okay.
I've got a bunch of scriptures here about the cloud. My first one is Exodus 24:15. Cloud equals presence of God. But I want to mention that there was no cloud or rain before the flood. I think the cloud represents the people that belong to God and they've passed on and they become that cloud. So there were a lot of righteous people in the first 1,000 years and they are no longer on the earth, only Noah. And they have joined God in the heavens and are the cloud, okay? So then you get a cloud over the ark. We know that cloud's representing God. That's in Leviticus 16:11. Numbers 12:5. Cloud came down to judge Miriam and Aaron. The Egyptians knew by the cloud God was with them. 14:13. Numbers 14:13. That's the Egyptians knew. Can you imagine that, Frank? They knew that God was with his people. If God is with his people, and when my neshama goes to heaven to be with God, that's who I am, my life. If I'm with God, then everywhere God goes, I'm with him. All right? I'm going to get down to something here about the cloud. The dust cloud of Israel in Numbers 23:7. 2 Samuel 22:7. Thick cloud beneath the feet, he rode on a cherub. So Yahweh is seen.
Referring to God again, right?
Yeah. 1 King 8:10. Yah has chosen to dwell in a thick cloud.
Oh, wow.
So the cloud is not God. It's something that's with him. Isaiah 45. Will create over the temple a cloud by day and a smoke with glowing fire by night. Over all is his glory. Okay, so now we're beginning to associate the cloud with glory, the glory of God. God comes mounted on a swift cloud in Joel 2:2. Clouds are involved in the movement and presence of God. That's what we see as we read all these scriptures. The day of the Lord, Ezekiel 33, a day of cloud and doom. And then it says he's seeking his flock on the last day. The cloud is a picture of representing God's glory. And we see scripture, especially in Isaiah, that Israel is God's glory. What is it, the kind of glory? What do you think glory means there? Just a shining light?
It's his presence. It's his awareness of who he is. It's his honor. It's his majesty.
Well, it reminds me a little bit of a father and his children.
Mm-hmm.
If those children are behaving themselves, we had this happen to us once. They said we're coming into Hawaii, and our boys were doing just exactly what we said to do because it was complicated, getting on elevators and passing this way and that way. And someone said to me, they saw him sitting on the bus with us, going to the place where we would enter. And she said, whatever you're doing with those boys, you're doing the right thing. Well, parents, when they get a compliment about their children, that is their glory because they've been doing the right thing. And so God talks about Israel in Exodus as his firstborn son. If Israel is doing what God wants them to do, then he's their glory. Yeah. And all of mankind will become the glory of God on the earth. Mm-hmm. So cloud and glory gets mixed together. That's why I believe the cloud is the saints above. Coming to meet the Son of Man, the mortal man here on earth that has followed God.
Is that referring to the Messiah?
Yes, it refers to Messiah. It also refers to the people of Messiah.
Yeah.
So that's why the dominion is given. That is a dominion forever. It can't be destroyed. You cannot destroy God. And this is why in the New Testament, Peter didn't want to hear Joshua say, I'm going to be killed by these people. Because they knew that the Messiah was not supposed to be killed.
Yeah.
He was supposed to have a dominion that lasted forever and ever.
They didn't like to hear that.
No, it didn't work. So that's something very strongly in the that the Jewish held, was that the Messiah would come. I don't know if they thought he had put on immortality is why he couldn't be killed, or if they just thought he was grow up and become immortal.
Yeah, some think he's born and he's here already.
Well, I know.
So that would make him mortal.
But how could you live forever? You'd have to be you'd have to live like Adam should have lived.
Yeah. Boy.
So I have an answer for me. I don't know if it is anyone else, but we'll go over it again sometime. We're in Samuel 7. God tells David, you will have an everlasting throne and an everlasting, and he actually says you'll be king forever. Mm-hmm. I'll read the scriptures another time when we get into who this person is.
There's prophets that talk about David coming back.
Well, they talk about David sitting on his throne, and in Ezekiel, God says, "I'll give the King David to you."
Yeah. So that's.
But
if it's David coming back, that's not really a mortal man because he's already.
He's put on immortality, but he has been a mortal man.
Yeah, yeah.
He was born of a man.
Yeah, I don't know how the Jews handle that for sure.
Well, but an immortal man is not going to die.
Yeah, right.
He's been changed.
If he's somebody alive today who's been born, then he has to become immortal somehow.
Exactly. My spirit, I, Daniel, suffered within its vessel, my body.
That's verse 15.
That's, yeah. Is it? Have we talked too long now, Frank?
I got a couple minutes.
And the vision in my head troubled me. He was troubled by all of this. I approached one of the attendants. Okay, the attendants were these people that were attending to God in the dream. So he's really sort of still he's aware of presence, but he's also still in the dream, seeking the truth from him about all of this. And he spoke to me and made the meaning of the thing known to me. These enormous beasts, of which there are four kingdoms, will arise from the earth. Holy ones, and it's plural. That's why I say the mortal man is both a group of people as well as their leader.
Mm-hmm.
Holy ones of the Most High will receive the kingdom and will inherit the kingdom forever and ever.
Okay, so we talk about these four kingdoms when he translated Nebuchadnezzar's
Dream.
dream, yeah. Maybe we should wait there and go into that more next time. What do you think?
Well, I did last time, but I could do it again.
Anyway,
if you want me to.
well, it's about a half hour.
Okay. So the next thing he talks about is, then I wish to be certain about the fourth beast, because that was the most puzzling.
Oh, okay.
Which was different from all of them, exceedingly fearsome, with teeth of iron, claws of bronze. It devoured and crushed and then trampled what remained with its feet. So we'll deal with that again next.
Yeah.
That's what you're asking about.
Yeah.
Well, he's given the interpretation of this. Next week we'll get that.
Okay.
Okay, so have a good week. Now, it doesn't sound like we're ending on a very good note at the start of December.
Oh.
Let's say the note that's good is there is a mortal man that can become immortal, and that it's open. It's an open door for every single person on earth. It depends on what you decide and want.
Well, I think the whole thing is that God has a plan, and He's going to bring things to a close at some point.
Yeah, well, He has to, or we'll continue to deteriorate here on the earth. So
yeah,
have a happy season of Thanksgiving and time with friends and neighbors, and the Lord bless all of you.